Welcome to 1189. My name is Tyler Marston, and today we're taking a look at Exodus chapter 38. So through all the ups and the downs with the Israelites, God has stayed committed to his people that he's chosen to enter into this covenant with. And as such, the Israelites are finishing up work on the Tabernacle, God's tent house. This work is specifically being done by Bezalel and his craftsmen, those people who God filled with his spirit of wisdom and knowledge and creativity. And in this chapter, we'll see how every part of the tabernacle, from its cost to its furniture, ultimately points us to the gospel. Then he made the altar of burnt offering of acacia wood, 5 cubits long, 5 cubits wide, square, and 3 cubits high. He made its horns on its 4 corners, its horns being of one piece with it, and he overlaid it with bronze. He made all the utensils of the altar, the pails and the shovels and the basins, the flesh hooks and the fire pans. He made all its utensils of bronze. He made for the altar a grating of bronze network beneath, under its ledge reaching halfway up. He cast 4 rings on the 4 ends of the bronze grating as holders for the poles. He made the poles of acacia wood and overlaid them with bronze. He inserted the poles into the rings on the sides of the altar with which to carry it. He made it hollow with planks. So Bezalel and his skilled workers build this bronze altar on which the people will be offering sacrifices to God. And they make it exactly according to God's instructions in Exodus 27. We remember how it's going to be placed in the courtyard, that gathering spot for all the people to come and worship God. And they'll be giving up their burnt offerings to show God that they trust in his provision, more so than the provision of whatever their offering could have provided. This altar for burnt offerings is also going to play a major role in all of those ceremonies and holidays that God instructed the people to keep to remind them of how God had worked in their lives. And as with everything else, the poles represent the altar's portability. The Israelites are going to be able to worship God wherever they go, as long as they obey God and bring that altar with them. Moreover, he made the laver of bronze with its base of bronze, from the mirrors of the serving women who served at the doorway of the tent of meeting. And so Bezalel also makes that bronze laver that is going to be where the priests wash themselves before they enter into the tabernacle. And we remember that washing isn't just hygienic, it represents purity and abstinence from sin. Of course, the washing itself doesn't make them pure. It's just a symbol of God's imparted holiness and God's imparted purity. The laver will also be set up in the tabernacle courtyard, actually right outside the door of the tabernacle. And it's built according to God's exact instructions for it in Exodus 30. We also specifically read here that the laver is made out of the mirrors of the women who would go on to serve in the tabernacle. In this day and time, mirrors weren't made out of glass. They were actually made out of polished metal, like the bronze here used for the laver. And the women giving up their mirrors for God's purposes is an image of exchanging vanity in oneself for the purity and holiness that only God offers. Verses 9 through 20 recount Bezalel and his craftsmen and his weavers putting together the fencings of the tabernacle courtyard that was described in Exodus 27. They define it with these tall, undyed linen curtains that are arranged in a rectangle and planted in place with bronze sockets and silver hooks and bands. And on the east side, directly across from the bronze altar and the laver and the entrance to the tabernacle proper, there is a gate into the courtyard. It's made of a dyed curtain that's set on these pillars, just like the screen to the entrance of the tabernacle proper and the veil that separated the Holy of Holies. And we remember how God is setting up this courtyard so all the people can come and worship him in a communal area. God doesn't want anyone to be far from him. Even today, he invites us to come into his presence and worship him. This is the number of the things for the tabernacle of the testimony, as they were numbered according to the command of Moses, for the service of the Levites, by the hand of Ithamar, the son of Aaron, the priest. Now Bezalel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, made all that the Lord had commanded Moses. With him was Aholiab, the son of Ahisamach, of the tribe of Dan, an engraver and a skillful workman, and a weaver in blue and in purple and in scarlet material, and fine linen. These verses introduce basically the receipt of the tabernacle. It calculates the total amount of gold and silver and bronze and all these different materials that were used in its construction. Now we remember that this collection came from both the free will contributions from Exodus 35 and the half shekel tax that was instituted in Exodus 30. It's a good illustration of obeying God, both in his corporate, explicit given commands, and also obeying the individual calling he places on each person's heart. Those always work in tandem, and they still do today. So if anyone ever says that God told them to do something that doesn't line up with God's commands in Scripture, we know that God did not tell them to do that thing. But what was the actual cost of the tabernacle? Verses 24 through 31 answer that for us, and they measure everything out by weight. In all, the tabernacle used 29 talents and 730 shekels of gold, 100 talents and 1,775 shekels of silver, and 70 talents and 2,400 shekels of bronze. Now, a talent is somewhere between 65 and 75 pounds, and there's about 40 shekels in 1 pound. And so what that means is if we had those weights of those materials in today's economy, the tabernacle would cost nearly $5 million in gold, over $2 million in silver, and $15,000 in bronze. Now, of course, with inflation and new technologies, this isn't exactly what it would have costed the Israelites, but we can see that it was a sacrifice. This is a lot of material and a lot of money that was given up for God's purposes. But the people made that sacrifice because they were obedient to God. They trusted him both in his explicit instructions and in their individual callings. And we need the same to be said of us. Whether it's time or money or resources, we should always be giving God exactly what he called us to give in exactly the amount God has called us to give it. And we also see how all these parts of the tabernacle are beginning to work together and show us a picture of the gospel. Because we can only give like that when we trust him and when we sacrifice our own selves, as on the altar, through Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. As a result, God washes us, as with the laver, and we are able to worship him as in the courtyard. This is what it meant to follow God back then, and it's what it means to follow God today. But it's never without a cost. So is that cost worth it to you? Thanks for watching 1189. I hope you have a good day, and God bless.